What's going on, everybody? I am here to do a review for Avatar: The Last Airbender that premiered on Netflix on February 22nd, 2024. When I first learned that they was going to be doing an Avatar: The Last Airbender television show, I was like a few other people and a bit skeptic, considering the filth that we got 14 years ago from M. Night shit on everything that he touches with that trash Last Airbender movie that should not have ever been made. And honestly, that was one of the first movies I almost walked out of, and I probably should have, looking back at it in hindsight, but it is what it is. Now, I am a huge fan of the Last Airbender series that debuted on Nickelodeon back, I believe, in 2007. So I think it came out the year I graduated high school, or maybe after I graduated high school. It was in 2007. Now, I wasn't one of the people that watched the show initially, because at that time I was kind of weaning myself off of animated series because I was getting older. I didn't see the point of it. But then I saw a trailer for that trash movie when I was in college that they was going to make a live action movie of, and I said, you know what, let me go ahead and watch the show and see what it's all about. And I immediately got hooked. They had a marathon style for like 2 weeks before the movie came out, and I watched every single episode. I think that's probably the only thing I watched for like that first couple of weeks in the March of that year that it came out. And I was absolutely hooked and saw what the hype was and saying to myself, why didn't I get locked in with this show sooner? But it is what it is. I watched it, and like many others, it gained a major following and it became an instant classic on a global scale. So now here we have Netflix has decided to take the reins and say, you know what, we saw where M. Night majorly messed up and said, let's go ahead and take care of this ourselves, but let's turn it into a series and adapt it from the television show. So this review is not going to be such of a thing about the show itself, because really, if you've already seen the series, you pretty much know what's going to happen in the show. It's just it's a live action adaptation of it. Now, the difference between the show, the animated series, and this one is, of course, that the animated series, you could do a little bit more with it, and it has way more episodes. I believe that each season had like about, I forgot how many episodes, but it's quite a bit episodes per season, whereas the Netflix first season anyway has 8 episodes, which I think is the benchmark for most Netflix series nowadays anyways, is to have an 8-episode season no matter what show it is that they do. So this review is going to be more so about the production, the actors, and the effects more so than anything. So let me just go ahead and start with the production. The production on this show, let's just put it this way. I don't know how much money Netflix threw their way for the budget of this show, but I can tell the budget was ting, because they showed out with the production on this show. The different nations that they went to look so vibrant. It was like literally looking at the cartoon, but looking at it in live action. And like I said, sometimes things don't translate well, but it definitely did when it came to the production design of how this show was laid out. The different tribes, the different nations, the special effects with the water bending, the fire bending, the earth bending, all of that translated very well, which, by the way, let me insert something right here. For those of you who watched the show, what tribe do you think you belong to? The Fire Nation, the Water Tribe, the Earth Kingdom, or the Air Tribe? Y'all let me know, which tribe do you think that you would actually fit into if you had a choice to be within those realms. The CGI was done very, very well, and I think the CGI really came from the Appa and Momo character. Of course, the different creatures that we saw throughout the series, the bending, as far as the fire bending, the fire looked so real. I'm sure that it was definitely CGI, but it looked very, very real. Of course, the air bending, the water bending looked very good, having the water turn into ice and snow and all of that good stuff. It was just a sight to behold, how they managed to pull all of that off within the visual effects and the production design and of the world. Everything looks so real. I can tell some of this stuff was shot on location. Some of it was probably definitely against the green screen, but the way that it was, again, how the budget was budgeting, you couldn't tell the difference. You couldn't tell what was on location and probably what wasn't. Although when it comes to certain locations, you can definitely tell. because those places definitely in real life would not exist. But if they were real, they looked very real to me in this show. Now let's talk about the actors. Every actor on this show played their part to a T, to the point where I had to sometimes close my eyes and hear them talk and deliver the dialogue that was presented to them, and it literally sounded just like their characters on the original show, like how their tone of voice, how they delivered the lines, of things that they would say. Of course, you know, there's some things that they were able to change out a little bit, because you're thinking about it, it was an animated show made for children on Nickelodeon. So some things that they could translate and put onto Netflix definitely was not present in the Nickelodeon show. You got to think, those who were younger back then and watched the television show are older now, so they can handle more of those mature themes as far as some of the, you know, innuendos, especially with the Sokka character, or even with some of the words that was in there. They even threw like maybe 1 or 2 cuss words in there. It wasn't heavy or anything like that, because at the end of the day, it's still seen as a family program, but they really go there with some of the things that they do. Every actor, again, in my opinion, did a very good job. In my opinion, my favorites that stuck out to me was the actor that played Sokka. He really captured his comedic presence while also still showing that he has to be a leader for his people, while still also protecting his sister, who is Katara. So he was able to handle all of those things at the same time, which I really did love. The actor that they got to play Aang, not Ong, M. Night, man, that's that part that still boggles my mind why he even changed the pronunciation of that kid's name. But the actor that they got to play Aang, he was so believable, he was so charismatic. You actually believe that he was very naive to the world, while he still knows that he's the Avatar. He still knows that he's mindset wise still 12 years old. Remember, he was inside that ice cap for 100 years, so he's 112, but he still has the mentality of a 12-year-old, but he's still naive to the world. But he knows that he has to save the world at the same time from this imminent threat that is to come, while still being assisted and helped out by his friends. The actress who played Katara was very well as well. She was very likable, she was very caring, she was very nurturing for a young girl, but she came off very, you know, motherly at the same time, because she is the only girl right now in the group. Of course, if y'all follow the show, they eventually pick up a 4th member for their crew, which is also going to be a female. I won't spoil it for those of you who have never watched the show, but if you have watched the show, you know who the 4th member is. And I'm glad they did not show or spoil that person in the first season, because it would have made no sense, because in the show, in the animated series, that character does not come into like season 2. So I said, just let that character be there for season 2. But I really did like Katara. I liked the effects and how she was waterbending. I liked that she was trying to learn how to waterbend. They just didn't throw her into the water and say, oh, she knew how to waterbend. No, she had to actually have to learn how to waterbend, and because she was the only waterbender around, she had to pretty much teach herself how to waterbend, which I did like. And if they do something in season 2 with her character that they did in season 2 of the show, that's going to take her powers to the next level, which I will also not spoil for you. But let me just tell you this, the ability that she'll be able to do in season 2, she's gonna be damn near unstoppable. I'm gonna just put it like that. If you had that ability, you would be unstoppable. Then of course you had the character of Zuko. Definitely played his character to a T. You believed him that he wanted to go out into the world, find the Avatar, because he got banished by his father, the Fire Lord Ozai, and said that do not come back until you bring me the Avatar. And that's all he wants. He just wants to have his father's approval no matter what. And I feel like that's relatable to a lot of kids who just want to, you know, not so much live in the shadow of their parents, but always seeking their parents' approval. But everything that they do, it just seems like it's never enough. And you can tell that Zuko is battling with the internal conflict of wanting to appease and please his father, but also wanting to do his own thing. But for some reason, mentally, he's always on the side of, let me go out there and prove to my father that I can be, you know, and follow in his footsteps, and that I'm not some weakling, and I'm not to, you know, to take me seriously. Of course, his father has other alternative motives that Zuko has no awareness of. Which leads me also to Uncle Iroh, who is like, let me just say, Uncle Iroh is like the W uncle. I think everybody needs an Uncle Iroh in their life. He's, in my opinion, a better father figure to Zuko than Ozai could ever be. He literally is there by his side every step of the way. Is like he's his uncle, is almost like he's his dad, his mentor, his counsel. He's always in Zuko's ear. Zuko may not want to hear because he's young and naive himself, but Uncle Iroh literally is telling him what he needs to hear and not what Zuko wants to hear. And he literally helps guide him through every step of his journey to get to wherever it is that he wants, but also at the same time he has to kind of pull Zuko back from the ledge and not have him fly too close to the sun, because sometimes he'll do something off of impulse and not off of thought, of thinking things through, which typically a lot of young people tend to do in the moment, in the heat of that moment. And of course you had, besides those are really like the main characters, then of course you had Fire Lord Ozai, which he didn't really have that many scenes in this season, which makes sense because he really doesn't become that prevalent to the story until like the second and definitely in the third seasons, where he really becomes prevalent. If you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. But I really did like Fire Lord Ozai because he has such a demeanor presence. You really believe him to be this villain. He's the Fire Lord. He runs the nation. He's basically the president of the Fire Nation, and he really rules with an iron fist. Like nobody is crossing him, and he's letting you know. And the way that the actor that portrays him just gives off these emotions even without him saying any words is just impeccable. That is very good and methodical acting on his part, where he could have these stoic looks about himself and still deliver these lines. It was one part in the show where he said or did something that sent chills down my spine. Oh yeah, it was the one where he was having that conversation with Zuko before he vanished, and that part, when you see it, it sent chills down my spine with just how he delivered those lines. Then of course, you know, Zuko has a sister named Azula, which I'm actually shocked they put her in the first season, because in the first season of the animated series, Azula is non-existent. She doesn't really come until the second season, but I believe I read somewhere where they said that some of the stuff they kind of have to speed up a little bit because of time and everything like that. But Azula is basically the spitting image of her dad. If y'all thought Zuko was something to deal with, Azula is 10 times worse. That girl right there will do anything, and I do mean anything, to be on her dad's good side. And the thing is, I believe that Ozai truly believes that Azula is more fit to lead rather than Zuko, because he says Zuko holds back. Azula, on the other hand, does not. She goes all in, and she will. Trust and believe, Azula is no nonsense, just like her dad. And they did something in this season with her where they showed her secondary ability. Again, I will not spoil it for you. You have to watch it for yourself if you have not seen it already. But for those of you who watch the show, knows what Azula's secondary ability is, besides the fact that she is a fire bender. And expect to see more of her. Like, with how they ended it off, I said she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. She's very, very dangerous. Now, the last character I'm going to talk about is Zhao. Let me tell you something right now. This character annoyed the hell out of me because of how underhanded and how conniving and backstabbing he is. But that goes to a testament to his character and the actor that played him. So by me saying that, that means that this actor and this character conveyed and gave off the presence of what was supposed to be done. He understood the assignment. Like his character was everything that a turncoat would be, that you could think of. Like, put all of that into a pot, mix it around together, and that's exactly who General Zhao was. I was so glad when he got his in the end, because I'm telling you, like, he's one of the reasons, another reason why you keep watching the show, because you want to see what's going to happen to his character. I think that's what kept me binge watching it, which, by the way, I ended up watching this entire season in one day. Usually I don't do that. It's been a while since I binge watched an entire series on Netflix all in one day, in one sitting. But his character and the stuff that he did kept me watching to keep seeing When is he going to get his, and how is it going to happen? And when it did, it was so satisfying, I'm telling you right now. I mean, also in the show you had other characters like the Kyoshi Warriors, which would done very well. Like whoever is on job, or in charge, I should say, of the makeup for them was definitely on point. So you had the Kyoshi Warriors, which of course means you got the introduction of Suki, who is basically the leader, or like the second in command of the Kyoshi Warriors there as well. You had Jet, you had June, you saw different places and different people. You had Boomy, you had Azula's two friends. I know May is one of them, but I can't think of the name of the other girl, the one who has the ponytail. If y'all watch the show, y'all know who I'm talking about. Yeah, her. So you had an introduction to a lot of characters. So when I was looking at this, it took me back to when I used to watch the animated series. But all in all, this was a very good season one, a good, very foundational level, I would guess you could say, statement made to set up for definitely a season two. Like, I can't see how this could not get renewed for a season two. And when it gets renewed for a season two and season two comes back on, I'm gonna probably binge watch that too, and I'm gonna be right back on here to review that too. But again, if you have not watched the Last Airbender, Avatar: The Last Airbender animated series, I would highly recommend that you watch that and then watch this, mainly because the animated series has more episodes, so there might be some other things that fill in there that the show probably couldn't put in there, mainly because of time. And then go and watch this one, and I can pretty much guarantee you're most likely going to love them both. Or even if you don't, you might like one over the other. It is what it is. It's a good compare and contrasting type of deal. But y'all let me know what y'all think about Avatar: The Last Airbender season 1 down in the comments. Have you watched the show yet? Will you watch the show? Are you familiar with the show? What tribe do you belong to? Do you belong to the air, the water, the fire, the earth? Oh, and one other thing. When Aang went into the Avatar state, which of course, for those of you who aren't aware, that's when his tattoo with the arrow glows and his eye glows and he starts doing all these things. That was very good. That was very, very well done. He only went into the Avatar state a couple of times throughout the season, except for, like, of course, he went into the spirit realm to talk to the other avatars of the past, basically to get counsel from them. But when he did go into the Avatar state, it was wonderful to see, and it kind of got me hyping. I don't want to jump the gun, but if you know how the last episode of the original series is, oh, the budget is going to probably be thrusted just into that scene alone. Because when he goes into the Avatar state at the end of the animated series, which I'm assuming they're going to do with this show, now that's the one I'm waiting for. Let me just tell you right now, y'all are going to be in for a visual treat. That is all I'm going to say. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Be safe and be one.